When I first started bulking, I thought the main thing about bulking is simply just eating more than I usually do. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I did that prevented me from actually bulking the correct way on my fitness journey. I thought just eating more would make me gain more muscle, make me gain more weight, but all that did was actually make me gain more fat. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to build more muscle, and by building more muscle, I would eventually gain more weight as well. So, in today's video, if you have been making the same mistakes as I have been making, or you're struggling on your bulk, or you just need some advice or some knowledge before starting your bulk, this is the video you should be watching. Because I'll be breaking down the mistakes that I fell into while on my bulking journey. The first mistake that I fell into on my bulking journey was not tracking what I was eating. And that might sound simple, but at that time, I didn't know that there was such a thing as tracking your calories, tracking how much protein you are eating. And that prevented me from making so much more progress than I actually could have. So, the tip I want to give you today is to track the food that you eat. That means tracking the amount of calories that you eat, tracking the amount of protein that you eat, the carbs, and the fat. All those macronutrients have an effect on how well you will be bulking on this journey. If you eat way too much calories over your maintenance, you will actually end up gaining way more fat than you actually want to. And that leads me on to the second mistake that I was making on my journey, was eating in a too high of a calorie surplus. By eating on a high calorie surplus, I gave my body too much energy that it needed. So what my body did was, it used that energy, instead of turning it into muscle, it turned it into fat, because that's what your body does when it has too much energy that it can burn. And that's when I started counting my calories the correct way. I went on Google, I searched calorie counter, I saw how much calories was my maintenance. At that time, my maintenance was 2,300 calories, and I decided to eat 500 more than that. And that allowed me to gain 0.5 kg at least every single week. But along with the amount of calories that I was eating, I had to ensure that I was eating enough protein and not eating too much fat. And those things actually matter. So when it comes to your protein intake, you have to make sure that you eat 1 gram per pound of body weight, and only 20% of your calories, 20 to 25% of your calories should come from fat. So at that time, I was eating roughly under 100 grams of fat every single day. And the moment I realized that what I was doing at this time was working is when I went over 55 kg. When I started my bulk, I was on 50 kg, and I was always trying to go over 54 kgs. I was going to 53 and then back down again, 52, back down again. And when I went over 55 kg, that's when I knew that I was on the right track. And by following that process consistently, it led me onto the path that allowed me to reach 60 kg. But along that journey, there was also one big thing that I also had to implement, and that was my training split. Instead of training for hypertrophy, I focused on strength training. And that is one big thing that you have to do when you are bulking, is focus on strength training. Because when you focus on strength training, you actually give your body a reason to turn that food that you are consuming into muscle. Because if you are not going hard in the gym, if you are not focusing on increasing your strength, which you can only increase your strength if you go hard in the gym, your body won't have a reason to turn that protein and that calories that you give it into muscle. So if you are not strength training, you will actually find out that you'll be gaining less muscle than you actually could be gaining. So that is basically what I had to do on my journey. And I wish someone told me that sooner, because I spent like 2 years not making any progress, because I didn't know any of these things that I told you right now. Even though they are on the internet, or the information is scattered all over the place, so I didn't know what direction to follow. So if you just listen to what I told you in this video, I hope that it will give you enough direction and enough advice so that you can actually bulk successfully and not waste all that time that I did on my journey. So this is what I wish someone told me when I started bulking. And if this helped you, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to never miss more content like this. You become the person you want to be by pushing through the times you want to quit.